Ms. Lerner, you play such a critical role in our government. We appreciate what you do and how you do it. I know you can't speak specifically to what's happening here within the CSB, but can you give us an idea of the scope? For instance, how many complaints are you looking into at this point?
It's a little tough for me to give you that.
I don't want you to step over any lines, but I'm trying to get an idea of how many and what types of complaints are looking into.
I'm very happy to tell you the types of complaints. They're all retaliation complaints. And there are at least several that are still unresolved. One settled a couple months ago. We are actively trying to resolve the remaining retaliation complaints.
Is it typical that government officials need to be subpoenaed in order to secure their testimony in your job and what you need to do?
It's rare that OSC would have to issue a subpoena.
Why did you feel the need to have to issue a subpoena in this case?
We felt it was necessary to subpoena the CSB management official because, quite frankly, in light of the time that it was taking to produce documents and schedule the interviews in the case, the investigation was taking too long. Okay,
thank you. Mr. Moreira-Rosso, have you ever personally used your personal email for official business or communication?
Well, yes, out of ignorance at the beginning of my tenure, I used to write drafts of positions before I will put it as
when's the most recent time that you used your personal email?
We stopped that practices about a year and a half ago because we realized how problematic it was.
So you'd been in that position for more than 2 years before you realized that it was inappropriate?
Before it was telling me that I couldn't use my private.
Thank you. Can you tell me about Chris Warner? Who was Chris Warner?
Chris Warner is the former general counsel of the Office of the Chemical Safety Board.
And did he remain as the general counsel?
He retired.
Did he have to take on a different responsibility under your tenure?
Yes, he was transferred to the position of a senior advisor to the chairperson.
Do you consider that a promotion or a demotion?
It was a lateral change, I will consider.
Why did you make that lateral change?
Because I will be very glad to discuss this with you in a private matter, but I don't.
No, that's. We're going to do things in the public. We're not going to issue memos before we have. We're going to do this in public.
Yeah, the agreement that we have with the counsel for Mr. Warner is that I am not to discuss the issues of his settlement. My own counsel tells me that I'd be very glad to discuss all the detail of his case, but not in public. I want to protect the privacy of Mr. Warner.
You suggest in your testimony that you're not aware of anybody who may have lost their job, grade, or pay, anything like that, and yet this case I'd like to specifically know more about, and we will continue to pursue that. Mr. Sullivan, you're very familiar. Are you familiar with the situation with Mr. Warner?
Yes, sir, I am.
How would you characterize it?
Mr. Warner made a complaint to the Inspector General's office, and we investigated it. And it's still part of his complaints, are still part of our investigation. And as Mr. Elkins testified, we cannot resolve Mr. Warner's complaints until we get access to the documents we requested.
When did you request those documents, and have you received those documents?
No, sir. We requested them over a year ago, and that was the subject of the 7-day letter Mr. Elkins testified about.
Why have you not produced the documents requested?
Well, under advice of counsel, they have.
Whose counsel?
The counsel of the Chemical Safety Board that we hire. I mean, let me explain to you the situation. We have been requested by the IG, by the Inspector General, a number of information, documents and information for this particular case. We have provided thousands of emails from board members to him, and there are 20 emails that is the agency correspondence with an outside lawyer that is represented the agency in this personal matter. And under the advice of counsel, they are determined that turning over those 20 emails will compromise the attorney-client privilege of the agency and potentially create future liabilities for the federal government.
How much money do you spend on outside counsel?
In that outside counsel, I have to go back to you. I cannot tell you. I don't have the figure.
And you'll get that information to me by when?
Whenever I can.
I know. I want a date.
In a week.
Fair enough. My time has expired. I'm going to continue with